Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise this morning to inform honorable members that the Ministry of Social Development and Sports intends to launch an initiative to highlight the sporting achievements of and make sports more socially inclusive for persons with disabilities in Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, the objectives of this initiative are as follows. 1, to consult broadly on the topic of sport and persons with disabilities. 2, to create an action plan which identifies steps required to heighten awareness and increase participation in sports and recreation by persons with disabilities. 3, to undertake a public relations exercise to raise the profile of Bermuda's para-athletes competing at the international level. 4, to establish enhanced opportunities for sporting engagement amongst Bermuda's community of disabled persons. 5, to promote the accommodation and integration of persons with disabilities into mainstream athletic and other sport competitions. Mr. Speaker, Bermuda's national sports policy states there should be no barriers to participating in sport and recreation or to developing an individual's skills to achieve their sporting potential. Mr. Speaker, the national sports policy also states, and I quote, "Government acknowledges the sports and recreational needs of the historically underrepresented population of persons with disabilities. The commitment to increasing their participation in both sport and recreation is paramount to the aims of this policy. Additionally, increasing the awareness of the general public of the contributions that persons with disabilities have made and continue to make to the sports community, locally and internationally, will enhance the community as a whole. The government intends for national sport governing bodies and other key stakeholders to offer sport and recreation activities that have been adapted where needed to include persons with disabilities." End quote. Further, Mr. Speaker, the national sports policy goes on to say, and I quote, "Persons with disabilities are encouraged to continue to educate the Department of Youth, Sport and Recreation, the national sport governing bodies, and other key stakeholders on how to accommodate them in the variety of roles within sports and recreation. With this knowledge, this will provide for persons with disabilities to experience the full range of sporting programs and recreational activities." End quote. Mr. Speaker, in addition, Goal 7 of the National Policy on Disabilities 2006, which deals with culture, recreation, and sport, states, and I quote, Mr. Speaker, "All people, including people with disabilities, have the right to participate in culture, recreation, leisure, and sport activities and must have equal access to these activities, both for their own benefit and that of our community. All people, including people with disabilities, are entitled to the same level of funding and coaching to pursue their cultural, recreational, and sporting goals." End quote. Mr. Speaker, these are laudable statements, but now we, as a community, must translate these words into action. We must walk the talk. Accordingly, as Minister with responsibility for sport, I intend to take action. We will consult directly with persons with disabilities to get their feedback on their level of participation in sports, the barriers that prevent them from more active engagement in sports, and ideas they may have for increasing participation in sports by persons with disabilities. This is a critical and necessary first step, but we do not want it to consume all of our efforts. Therefore, we are targeting to complete the consultative phase by September 2018. The consultation will include many stakeholders, such as the Bermuda Paralympic Association, Special Olympics Bermuda, Bermuda, Boccia Bermuda, WinReach Bermuda, Aging and Disability Services, the Disability Advisory Council, the Association of National Sport Governing Bodies, among others, to ascertain their views on how to increase participation. Mr. Speaker, without a doubt, the best way to proceed is by charting an action plan to identify achievable measures and targets. It is our intent to engage and challenge the entire community, including government itself, to embrace the capacity of sport to foster development and social inclusion when it comes to differently abled persons. The action plan development phase will overlap the consultative phase so that a robust action plan can be established by October 2018. The third objective is to raise the profile of our para-athletes that compete at an international level. This ongoing action step is important from several perspectives. A, it can motivate other persons with disabilities to train towards reaching an international competitive level. B, it can instill pride in all members of our community when accomplishments of our para-athletes are recognized and highlighted. And C, it can encourage investment in infrastructure and equipment to accommodate persons with disabilities in sporting endeavors. Mr. Speaker, in this regard, I am pleased to note that there were 7 para-athletes out of a total of 78 athletes who participated in the 2018 Bermuda Invitational permit meet organized by the Bermuda National Athletics Association and held at the National Sports Center on Friday, May 11, 2018. Including Bermuda's own Jessica Lewis, a 2015 Pan American Games gold medal winner, who is currently ranked #1 in the world in T53 100 meters. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to inform this Honorable House that I will be traveling to the United Kingdom shortly to give support to 3 of Bermuda's athletes who will be competing in the 2018 World Bocce Championships being held at the Exhibition Centre in Liverpool, UK, from August 12th to August 18th, 2018. The 3 para-athletes are Omar Hayward, a BC1 competitor, Uche De Silva Andrade, a BC2 competitor, and Theophilus Steve Wilson, a BC4 competitor. I am very much looking forward to seeing these athletes in action. Mr. Speaker, at the 2018 Bermuda Invitational Permit Meet, U.S. sprinter Blake Leeper, a world record holder with multiple Paralympic and World Championship medals, who runs on 2 prosthetic legs, electrified the crowd when he won the gold medal in the 400 meters. We must use our best efforts to provide opportunities for sporting engagement amongst all of Bermuda's community of disabled persons. Therefore, as our 4th main objective, we will examine ways to facilitate and enable participation in sports by organizing and encouraging sports activities and competitions for persons with disabilities. For example, Mr. Speaker, we could consider additional sporting events for Bermuda special needs children. Perhaps the time has come for establishment of a national disability games in Bermuda. Ultimately, with support from both government and the corporate sector, staging of a Bermuda Invitational Para-Athletic Games is well within our capability. Mr. Speaker, it will be a good thing to profile our successful para-athletes in international competition. It will be wonderful if we can bring sports into the lives of more of our persons with disabilities. But the true measure of how we as a people have embraced persons with disabilities is to achieve the 5th objective, the accommodation and integration of persons with disabilities into mainstream athletic and other sports competitions. My ministry is fortunate enough to include both culture and sports. Therein lies a golden opportunity to create a strong synergy between these 2 portfolios and achieve even greater outcomes. Exploiting this opportunity will require creativity, collaboration, and vision. There is no reason, for example, why an annual art and music festival cannot provide funding for disability in sports events. Mr. Speaker, around the world, countries are making great strides in using sport to advance the inclusion and well-being of persons with disabilities. It is time for Bermuda to join those nations who are recognizing the importance of increasing public awareness of the rights and capabilities of persons with disabilities through greater exposure and participation in sport. I truly believe sport can be a pivotal means to accelerate greater social inclusion for persons with disabilities. It is imperative that access to sporting opportunities be created, enhanced, developed, and continued for persons with disabilities in Bermuda. The time is now, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.